Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction and recovery. Join your hosts,
the Podfather, Jersey Ed,
as they break the silence and speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Friends in Recovery Podcast.com. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here with
Jersey Ed.
Jersey Ed. Jersey Ed.
New season. Welcome to our new season, Podfather. We can say that.
A new season. It's a beautiful day out. I know that. And we can't forget our producer extraordinaire, the one, the only, Sweets.
I am in the background, as always.
Lurking.
Sweets, we missed you.
Lurking
Sweets,
and working.
real quick before we get into a little bantering that we're supposed to do here. I just want to tell you that we have Kate Becker, a breath worker, as our guest today. So you guys stay tuned. If you can get through this little bit of us talking, and we'll have Kate on, and we'll have a real guest. So, but Podfather, it's been good to see you. We've been off. We've been relaxing a little bit. I was reading that we were on the beach on our Facebook page or something. Were you and I on the beach together?
No, I was up in Maine. You were down in Jersey Shore with Suki.
I was.
Yep.
That's right. Exactly.
Hey, you know what I did this summer? I read a few books, and one of them was an old book I read when I was in the Army, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It's quite a book. It's a whole philosophy on life through the eyes of a seagull, and
cool.
You know, it's funny. I told my daughter Michelle about it, and she has two children. One's in college, and so she bought me the book. And boy, did it bring back some memories. What a great book! It's a paperback. I read it in one day. I read it in about 2 hours. But
wow,
simple read. But what a great! It just brought back some great memories. You know, when you get old, when you start hitting the last leg of your life, you start looking around and realizing how quick it goes by. Number one, but number two, you know, I'd read that book 40 years ago when I was in the Army, and I swear to you, it's like even longer than that. So it's an old book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I would just suggest anybody out there that's struggling, or even if you're not struggling, even if you're having a great life, it's a great book. It has a great philosophy on what life's about.
What's the name of it, Podfather?
Jonathan Livingston, like Livingston Taylor, Seagull. It's about a seagull. It's about this seagull who, I don't want to say too much about it, but he
Spoiler alert.
Okay. He learns what life's about, and he shares it with you, and through his eyes, and maybe afterlife, you know, what's waiting on the other side. It's just an amazing book. It really is. Great book.
Cool. I'll put that in the show notes for everybody.
Put that in there. Yes.
I will.
What about you?
Well,
what are you
guys? Not much. Just been working and trying to I like what Sweet said a while ago about the pandemic. You know, I'm trying to come out of this pandemic better than I went in, and I think that's happening to all of us.
Yeah.
You know, we've kept in touch with each other, and you know, Sweets is always running and doing something, and I'm just fascinated by his growth and you know, what he does in his life, and you too, Podfather. So you know, so I think we're all accomplishing that. But I do want to tell you guys one thing: Friends in Recovery online meetings that we never really announced, and I know it's going to be in the beginning of the show. But Friends in Recovery online meetings, 12 noon and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please check our Facebook page for the for all the links and everything to get on. But it's basically a 12-step meeting online. We do them every single day, 12 noon and 7 p.m. And Podfather spoke at one. I think he's going to speak at another one.
Wow.
Is that tonight? Is that tonight we're speaking?
Yes, you're going to speak tonight. Yes. Yep.
7 p.m., 7 o'clock?
That is it. Yep. Absolutely.
Well, I'll be ready.
Yep. And some other new good. Yeah. So they're really good 12-step meetings that, you know, if you guys want to get involved with. So we definitely do that. Also, guys, new logo for Genesis House. Of course, Genesis House sponsors us. So this is the new shirt. This is the new logo. If you guys can see it.
Look at that.
I know it's backwards, but
I love it.
And then here's the back of it. And guys, we're going to give away a couple t-shirts. If you guys want to call me at 617-379-1163 or email me at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. We're going to give a bunch of these t-shirts away. So send an email or give us a call, and I'll make sure I get them out to you guys. And we'll send out
What are we doing?
of them.
The 25th caller?
25th call. Yeah, can you take calls while we're here?
Yeah.
25th call. That's it, sweets.
Yeah, starting now. Go.
Exactly. Right. Go.
Phone's already ringing. It's crazy.
Right. It's right. And also like to give a shout out to Tiffany P. Sent us an email. She said, I recently found your podcast, and I'm so grateful for your sentiments and education that we pass on to her. So Tiffany P, I promised you I would give you a shout out, and keep those emails coming. So sweets, how about you? What did you do over the weekend? I mean, over the weekend.
Wow, this is a long weekend, guys. I have done a whole bunch of things, but I'll say the most recent thing I did is I got this new fitness tracker on my wrist here, the Whoop Band, and Whoop Band. Joe Rogan uses it with his friends, WHOOP, and they get these little teams of people together, him and his friends, and it's basically competitive fitness tracking. And
cool.
So you can create these little teams, and it's I've been focusing this past week on my competitive sleeping.
Yeah.
Making sure that seriously, getting like the appropriate amount of sleep.
Yeah.
How much is the appropriate amount of sleep?
So it depends on whether or not you want just regular performance, peak performance. It depends on how much energy you exerted that day. So it tracks all that, and it tells me when I should go to bed, what time to wake up, what my heart rate is, if I'm in good recovery, should I work out today? It's pretty significant.
Well, I just ordered a new mattress topper for my bed.
There you go.
Yeah, for my pillows. And
we'll get you a Whoop Band. We can start competitively sleeping.
Wait, let's see. My Pillow, Whoop Band. Are they sponsoring this show, guys?
Not yet. They will be, though.
Not yet.
They will be, absolutely.
I remember 2 years ago, you tried to get in touch with Mike Lindell. You were out there in Minnesota, remember?
I did.
Yeah. And he was too busy for us.
He was, but that's okay. It's okay.
And he's a busy man. He does a lot of good things
going on.
Oh, he
does. Yeah.
Yep.
He does. Well, guys, should we bring in Kate?
Absolutely.
And let's find out what she does and how she does it and how it applies to recovery and the rest of the world. So I'd like to about Kate Becker. Kate is a Level 2 Therapeutic Breathworker trained in Milwaukee, Wisconsin through Transformations Incorporated and her 2-year mentorship with Jack Fontaine. Kate teaches Kundalini yoga. Come on, you gotta give me a break on that one. Kundalini yoga, certified through the Kundalini Research Institute. She hosts weekly classes, multimodality workshops, and ongoing breathwork groups. Her background and other interests include ecstatic dance, ecstatic voice practices, movement meditation, Butoh, and authentic content creating for performance and ceremony. She lives and works in New Orleans, Louisiana. Kate Becker, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. You did great.
Awesome. He doesn't hear that often.
You got a lot of those words.
Was I right with the yoga? Kundalini?
Kundalini yoga.
Kundalini yoga. Yes, that's it. Kundalini yoga.
Yeah,
what is that?
Kundalini yoga. Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
What kind of yoga practice is that?
So Kundalini yoga is, you think of yoga as being asana, which mostly is the postures of yoga. So you think of the shapes that you get into and you hold and breathe. Kundalini yoga is a little bit different in that we use chanting and pranayam or breath work, as well as the asana or the postures. It's just one branch of yoga, and it's one that I really connect to. Yeah.
How long is it? How long has that been in play? I mean, I've never heard it. Not that I'm into yoga, but one of my daughters is. No, I'm just wondering, is that something that's been around a long time, or is that new?
Yeah. Well, actually, with anything that you see now that's trending, it has roots in the ancient world, and then it's been evolving and modernizing over time. So this is actually a huge conversation. Where are yogic traditions coming from? What can we draw from and utilize in a respectful way? And I guess where the controversy is coming from is, are we appropriating things and Yeah, there, it gets a little bit sticky, but the practice itself, boiled
Mhm.
down,
Right.
is your body, your breath, your connection to the energies and sensations that you encounter, and that's something that is not a part of the controversy. So it's your own
Okay.
intimate relationship to your body, your breathing, what happens when you connect your intention to the practice of the physical practice of yoga.
Oh,
So
very
it's going to
interesting.
be personal to each person, and the
Sure.
culture around it is where it gets problematic and it deserves attention. But ultimately what I'm interested in is my own personal experience of feeling well and aligned in the body.
Right. Well, I know that chanting is so ancient. You know, in the American Indian, a lot of their rituals and festivities has a lot of chanting and you know, breathing, and it's just it's amazing what we know now as a culture. And if you go back, you know, hundreds of years, you know, it's been going on for a long time, is what I guess I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
As long as human beings have had bodies
Right.
and we're kept alive by our breath, these
That's it.
practices developed.
Yeah.
And it's like the I think it's the 100 monkey syndrome or something, where different populists will come up with the same thing all over the planet, and that's because there's a universality to it. So it grows up couched in the culture that it's arising in, but the universality of it tells us that there's something more intimate.
Sure. Well, it's primal too, because you know, we don't think about breathing; we just breathe, and that
Yeah.
that primal ability, you know, is just we all have it. Everybody has
Well,
it.
guys, go ahead. I'm sorry, Kate.
Well, that's true. We don't think about our breathing, and it's an interesting thing about breath work, is that there's the autonomic aspect of breathing, and then there's the voluntary aspect of breathing. And where we get into interesting territory is where we can consciously shift and change our breathing to
Right.
consciously shift and change the harmonizing and all the systems in the body.
Right.
So that's the only system that we have access to that is both autonomic and voluntary.
Correct.
And when we consciously modulate the breath in certain ways, we can dramatically affect our physiology, our neurobiology, our everything that's going on, all the
Sure.
systems in the body. Our breath affects every system in the body,
Sure.
which is why it's such a powerful tool.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
Kate, I've been well, you and I got somehow we kind of got a hold of each other, and I believe you work with people in recovery too, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So breath work really deserves a spot at the table in recovery for a couple of different reasons. And the primary one is that what we're looking at ultimately in recovery is that people want to change and they feel unable to, right? So a lot of why that is so is because the things that are limiting us are unconscious. So we live in this one little part of the brain, and it's related to what we know, our thoughts, the past, and our worries about the future, right?
Absolutely.
And yet, recovery work, we often end up in this this wanting to make a change and being thwarted, but we can't quite identify what's getting in the way. Why can't we make this shift and change? One aspect of that is that our physiology and our nervous system is set to be on overwhelm. It's in fight or flight. So our defense mechanisms that have developed over a lifetime of often traumatic events and experiences have got our physiology in a system where it's not able to rest and digest, or that parasympathetic nervous system response. We need to be able to shift into that so that we don't have stress hormones coursing through our body, fueling that urge for relief. So that's one part of it, is that the physiology. And we have access in shifting the way that we breathe. We gain access to the glandular system.
Right.
So we can experience sensations of wellness in the body related to dopamine, oxytocin. There's that hormonal component. There's also the neurobiology. So we think about creating new neuropathways in the brain to help us get out of old patterning. So that's kind of part of it. We can talk about breathwork and recovery from a scientific standpoint in that way, which is really, really helpful. But there's also this other thing that goes on that is deeply impactful in the field of recovery in particular, which is that we have these core beliefs and we don't have access to those core beliefs from the thinking part of the brain. So to gain access to those core beliefs, we need to shift our mind and go into a more altered state of consciousness to access that suppression, those buried beliefs that we can't get to by thinking. So we're limited with mental cognitive therapy alone. When we shift our brain's activity through this breath process back into the limbic part of the brain, it gives us access to that which is deeply subconscious. We're talking about core limiting beliefs. Right. I'm not safe in the world. I'm not whole. I'm not lovable. I have to survive this life. So those, we can think about it, and there's an intellectual we can assume that some of those thoughts might be there, but to actually gain access to the vulnerable emotional state of feeling that those beliefs are true and reconditioning our systems so that new beliefs become possible. And what we're talking about here is moving from white knuckling through life or surviving, suffering, and struggling with a minimal set of tools that can help us get through our day, moving from that place into a place where thriving, vitality become available, physical wellness and in the body so that we feel good. And then also balancing out with the appropriate, up here where we call the internal pharmacy, right? So balancing that out. And then of course, in the field of recovery, we're also talking about taking responsibility for our experiences in life. So we're developing healthful, honest communication and relationships with other people. We're talking about nutrition. We're talking about meaningful work and all the things that you do. And so we need a multifaceted approach, because otherwise we're really limited in our ability to get to the core reasons for the addiction. So part of what's really exciting about being in the field of recovery right now, and also as a breath worker, is that some part of our society is ready to stop blaming and incarcerating addicts, but get to the root cause. Yep. Why is this happening? Embrace it and help it to, and we have all these tools and resources now coming from modern trauma research on how trauma lives in the body. And breathwork is just such a powerful way to access all of those levels of recovery. And again, it deserves a seat at the table in recovery, but it's not standalone. So we all need each other. All these practitioners need each other. We need a bigger umbrella to come together underneath.
Not just one piece. I agree with you 100%. Kate, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we get back, I want to talk to you about trauma, how breath work plays a role in it. I understand breath work because I've been doing some meditation and some breath working, and we'll just get into that when we come back. Podfather, you want to take us to the commercial break here?
Yes, I do. Friends in Recovery podcast. We'll be back.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery. Welcome back to the Friends in Recovery Addiction Recovery podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, Genesis House, for supporting this show, along with individuals in recovery and the people that love them. Friends in Recovery Community of Support holds events across the country sponsored by Genesis House, in Palm Springs, Florida, Marlton, New Jersey, Newtown, Connecticut, and Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. The Friends in Recovery Addiction Recovery podcast is powered by your likes, follows, subscribes, and shares. And please be sure to do us a favor and leave us a 5-star review.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back, friendsandrecovery.com. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here with Jersey Ed.
Hi, guys.
Ed. And
hey, Mike.
Producer extraordinaire, Sweets, the one, the only.
Yeah.
Yeah, there he is over there. You should see what he has on today.
Yeah.
Oh, my
I don't
God.
want to know.
I'll tell you.
I don't even want to
It's
know.
shop. It's shop.
Lord and Taylor's going out of business, and he went out and bought some nice dresses. I'll tell you.
It's shop.
He's looking pretty
nice.
pretty good today.
I wonder if there's breath work for that. So
it's called panting.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, real quick, I want to I just want to throw a shout out to SoberPod. They are huge fans of ours. They're on the West Coast, and they have their show every Saturday, I believe it comes up, and it's a great show. Unlike ours, they know what they're talking about.
Yep.
And and they got their shit together, but they always give us a good plug at the end of their show, and we get a lot of fans from their show watching our show. So SoberPod, I want to say hello to Carl, Steve, Alan, and Chelsea. We love you guys. You guys have a great show over there. And real quick, I want to give a shout out to a new podcast I've been listening to, Journey Coaching. It's a podcast about life coaching, and it's JRNI podcast. And if you look that up, it's another podcast. Noel and God, I forgot his name. There's the two hosts, Noel and John, I believe. Yeah, Noel and John. So that's a great podcast too. So Journey Podcast, JRNI. Look them up also.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it is. So that's it on our free plugs today. And I want to finish our conversation with Kate Becker. She's a breathwork therapist, if that's the right word for it. And in between break, I needed some breath work. That's why we came back, and I'm still in the dark. So she's trying to fix me. But Kate, before the break, we were talking about, everybody's laughing. Like I am the diva, guys. Yes, I am. Just to let you know, there was a lot of diva stuff going on here, and Kate worked us through it. So in between the breaks, but Kate, before the break, we were talking about trauma and PTSD. We do a lot of work with PTSD folks, police officers, first responders. Mike himself is a Podfather himself was a police officer. He's retired, and he talks about PTSD and trauma all the time. And I want to know where this breath work comes in on all that, and how that can help alleviate or even move out the trauma or dissipate the trauma in PTSD. Is that possible?
Yeah, integrating the trauma. So what we learn, and just first of all, this is a huge topic. So basically, I'm going to just so what I'm going to say is relevant to trauma and breath work, and then also just acknowledge that there's a lot else to say about this topic. So first of all, the way that I define sometimes trauma is too much, too fast. So it's something happening that we can't process. So there's a response that goes on in the body, and we can be talking about atmospheric cultural trauma. We can also be talking about acute trauma. So events, instances, traumatic things that have happened to us in our life, but also ongoing trauma that is a result of living in a dysfunctional culture, or things that are a little bit harder to pinpoint psychologically, like neglect. So our breathing is our emotional regulation tool. So this is how we regulate our emotional experience as we're moving through life. One of the things that we can always notice, even though we're not aware of it, is when something's happening and we want to minimize our emotional contact to it, or we want to it's a survival mechanism. It's handy, it's helpful. What we do is we hold our breath. So something happens, we hold our breath, and then we form an opinion or a belief, an unconscious one, so that's related to that. But when we hold our breath, that is unprocessed energy in the body. So Peter Levine, Bessel van der Kolk, we have so much great insight now and information into how trauma lives in the body. But basically, to say in a more broad sweeping way, we hold our breath, that energy gets lodged in the body and it remains unprocessed. Therefore, something else in our environment that's not threatening, but that triggers a response can put us into a response mode that's similar to the time of the actual threat. So trauma is not living in the past. Trauma is your body responding as though you're in a traumatic situation. And so that hyper diligence is taxing on the body in all kinds of different ways. So part of what breathwork can do is release that stored trauma in the body. So when you're breathing, and this is often a really surprising component of breathwork for people who say, I had no idea that experiences like that were possible just with my breath. That happens all the time. But you get sensations in the body. So you accelerate your breathing. We're not talking about relaxation breathing here. We're talking about stimulating the sympathetic nervous system. Energy comes up in the body. That's stored traumatic energy living in a cellular way in the body. It comes up in the form of sensations of all kinds. So you get tingling or numbness in the body, or very particular, it's your energy, your trauma living in the body. So the way that it arises as you're breathing is very unique to you. You can feel a tightness in the chest. So so this process is not, it can be, it's the big guns, right? So we're not talking about accelerating our breathing on our own. We're talking about being in a nice, safe environment with a skilled facilitator, so that when these traumatic sensations arise, you can have a new response to them. Let them integrate and breathe through them, so that they are no longer operating in your body on the unconscious level, thwarting your efforts to change and heal.
So, Kate, I have a quick question. So I am a facilitator. I'm a clinical social worker and licensed alcohol drug counselor. But anyway, when you just said with the facilitator there. So I have somebody with PTSD, severe, involved in shooting where the other person died, and of course everything that's going on in today's world. He's a police officer, and anyway, he is, even if things were calm in society, I think any cop, I've seen cops for 20 something years now that have been doing this, that have had been involved in shootings and very traumatic situations other than shootings. But this specific gentleman I'm talking about, I do some breathing exercises with him. I've been educated in many things, many forms of therapy, cognitive therapy and stuff. But so in your profession, in your practice, do you give them the tools to take with them? In other words, so could you just speak on that a little bit?
Yeah. So as a breath worker, it's a little bit different than other kinds of client practitioner relationships, where somebody comes in and they're looking for your expertise and they want you to tell them something that might illuminate what's going on for them. And the practitioner is in charge of kind of delivering that expertise. As a breath worker, a nuanced difference is that I am a support person to help what wants to arise, help that person's innate alignment and connection and wholeness arise in them. So my job is to empower them to use the tools, knowledge, wisdom, and wholeness that they already possess. The agency is in their hands. So it's all about, and again, we can boil it down really simply to one's own relationship to the breath that animates their body, and their ability to be with what arises in a loving and present way, rather than to shut down or act out. So what they can take with them, and again, this is long game. So there are really dramatic effects we can have in the moment, but it's long game. It's a relationship to your own life, to your own self, to the agency within, to the resources that you have within. So it's a going in, regulating your breath based on whatever techniques we decide are most helpful. This is breathwork homework. So someone will come in and have a session, and then we'll talk about what goes on for you during the day, what kind of breath is most helpful, and can we introduce it so that you have sustainable access to your regulation system all throughout the day.
Right.
Because I'm deeply interested in what happens in the therapy room, but really what I'm more interested in is that person walking out the door with the
Right.
connection to their own faculty, the
Right.
connection to their own resources, to be able to self-regulate. Yeah.
You just,
so
you
there
just, yeah, you just answered my question.
and hats off
tenfold.
to you. Hats
Well,
off to you. for
Well,
the
hats
work
off to you
you do.
too.
Yeah.
You know, right now society doesn't, I don't know if they realize, the Department of Justice just did a study, just completed a study the end of July. It just came out, and basically there are 22 veterans committing suicide nationwide a day. Most of them are war veterans. I would suggest a lot of these veterans are committing suicide because they've, you know, the traumas and experiences they've been through, and they just can't cope with them. I'm sure some of them are substance abusers and some of them aren't, but I would suggest that any tools available to help this epidemic of course we don't hear about it because everyone's talking about everything else, you know, covert and everything, but you know, these are young men and women that are taking their lives. 22 a day, not a week, not a month, a day. And that those numbers just baffle me. They're so disturbing.
Yeah, and it's really easy to become overwhelmed and to just to shut down. It's easy to become overwhelmed because the degree of trauma is so is so great. The degree of trauma and the lack of supportive resources, knowledge, etc., to help people get to a place where, and this is essential, help people get to a place where they feel safe and calm in their own body. And embodiment work in general means moving away from the limited sphere of access, which is our thoughts, and using the systems of the whole body to help give us a greater sense of connection, alignment, peacefulness in the body. And again, and it's no small piece of it that we have an ability to access our hormone regulation and regulate our nervous system to bring us out of fight or flight into rest and digest. That's huge, to be able to use our breath through nasal breathing. Again, these are some of the tools that are homework breathing that people can use to access the glandular system. So to help with the oxytocin and dopamine family of hormones rather than the cortisol or stress hormones. Like these are real, practical, very powerful tools that we have access to without a prescription.
Right. And you're not just working with them for 1 hour. This is something they can take with them, which is more important. I mean, the 1 hour session is great, but that's 1 out of 24 hours, you know, and usually that's probably the best part of their day. But if they can take something with them, and
that's,
I know
that's actually, absolutely. Kate, and Podfather's right. That's 1 hour out of 185 hours in the week. And that was a good question, Podfather. My question to follow up the Podfather's question is, how long does this breath work take place? Is there a, like, you know, because of rehab, you know, 30 days creates a habit, makes or breaks a habit. Is there something with breath work? Like, is it a year, 2 years? Is it, you know, 30 days? Is it, what's the kind of the guidelines for that, or is there?
Yeah, I love this question because there's a lot that can be done, and a lot that I'm creating around how to structure it so that the sustainable change can be foundational, and so that people can really see the type of shift they want to see in their life. What does that take? So basically, I start people off with 10 sessions.
Okay.
But the something else that I'm looking into that's not quite formed yet is I like tradition so much. I also like moving into the future with new knowledge. So relying on something like the 12 steps, which has an extraordinary usefulness to us, and combining it with breath work in the format of 12 steps, 12 sessions. So that looks like that could look like a
Yeah.
year long program where we go really deep into not just the structure of the steps and the valuable work there, but taking that structure into a breathing process where people are going much, much, much deeper into their unconscious and into their physiology to get more benefit from those 12 steps. So it does take time. And just like anything else, our healing process is a life's path. It's a spiritual path. And one of the other things that I try to focus on in breath work, which also takes time, is reframing our sense of being victimized by our addiction to using the richness of our healing path as our greatest asset. That's huge. So
Yep.
a lot of our community members in recovery have the depth and the grit and the life experience, the willingness to live that our society is really hungry or thirsty for right now. We're experiencing, just as a cultural phenomenon, kind of a lack of meaning. So we're grappling, we've got with all the technology in the modern day where there's so much going on, but we're overwhelmed, but we're also underwhelmed spiritually and for our sense of meaning and value and purpose in our life. And so developing that and connecting to that, so we're rich, potent people, requires that we use our life experience, however troublesome, traumatic, or painful it might be, as the gifts that we offer. So going from victim to the addiction, into using our growth experience or our transformation experience with addiction as our greatest asset is deeply empowering. So our addiction people in our community can be some of our greatest leaders and some of our greatest representations of what it means to really want to be alive and thrive and have a message and a meaning.
Kate, how real quick, we're gonna have to wrap it up here, but a quick question that I'm guessing some of our listeners will be thinking. Number one, I know you're in New Orleans. Number one, and how do they access you? Is it possible to do this over Zoom or over the phone? And a phone number and email where they can access you. Guys, I think Kate and I were talking in between the break that I'm definitely going to look into this, and I would love to do a little bit more breath work. I know I do a 10-minute meditation in the morning, and it's all about breathing and concentrating on your breathing, and that completely calms me down and gets me focused and right for the day. So I can imagine sitting in a session with you for an hour, what that's going to do for the rest of my week. You know what I mean? Just amazing. So how can they get a hold of you, and what platforms is this done on? Is it done over Zoom? Can it be done over Zoom, etc.?
Oh, one of the glorious benefits of the pandemic is that my business, my work, this work, is available online. I do online Zoom sessions that are one-on-one. Each session will look different depending on what the person walking in is bringing. But that's happening. Starting in October, my full class schedule, which includes group breath work, will be available online. I'm on the back end of it right now, taking what was once a local, intimate, private practice and community practice, but local, to an online platform. So October 1st, that's going to be available on the website, which is theradiantshadow.com. Another thing I want to say about the field of breathwork is that it's experiencing a renaissance, and so there's a lot of breathwork information out there. If you want breathwork information that is coming from the Global Professional Breathwork Alliance, or the International Breathwork Foundation, those are two places that you can go to get information about breathwork that is that it's accredited. So it's coming from a place that has a long lineage and a lot of information and research to back it up. It's the Wild West out there in terms of breath work, and all of it has its place. but the International Breathwork Foundation, as well as the Global Professional Breathwork Alliance, are two reliable places to get solid information on breathwork.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
You've been a great
Good,
guest.
Kate, and absolutely, Kate, give us a phone number or an email address for you also. Now that'll be in the show notes too.
It's Kate Becker 211 at Gmail is my email. That's the best way to get a hold of me right now.
Perfect.
You can also reach me at the website, theradiantshadow.com.
theradiantshadow.com, guys, and that's Kate Becker, breathwork therapist and wonderful guest today. So Kate, thank you very much.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Kate. So,
well, Eddie,
guys,
you've outdone yourself again. I'll tell you. I always say every show, every episode, you always get.
I know. When we started right before the show, I'm like, I don't know what we're going to talk to her about. I have no idea what breath. I mean, I breathe. That's it. That's what I do, and I meditate in the morning, and they tell me to breathe. Now, this is a whole new world or a whole new part of recovery that you can access, especially for trauma, even just everyday kind of just relaxation techniques, I'm guessing, to bring you to another level in your life and in your thinking and in your mind. I believe, anyways.
I'd say out of the 20 some odd clients that I help right now, and some in groups, some one-on-one, I'd say 85% of them have experienced anxiety and panic. And, you know, that's a fact. And, you know,
well, you Podfather, you say it all the time. You've gone through
my own,
yeah, absolutely. So this would even be good for somebody like you who went through stuff, you know. And if you guys think back, Sweets, you're there, Sweets? Are you?
I am.
Are you? You gaming? Okay.
No. I was breathing.
I was breathing. Do you remember Dr. Brandler, Jeff Brandler, a couple of shows ago, a few months ago, actually? Remember he did how to do that little breathing technique, and you, Sweets, you said how amazing it was. I mean, out of everybody, you were the one who really, you know. So, you know, what's your thoughts on this?
I think it's great. I mean, I was actually I was part of another podcast that was talking about Kriya Yoga about a week ago, which was really into the, you know, rejuvenating your body with oxygen and adjusting your, I don't know, spine, all this really cool stuff that I know nothing about. And but learning all about the power that breath has, this healing power that our own, like this self-healing process that our body has that we don't talk about. You know, that just through breathing and concentrating on your breathing and taking time, something that Kate said earlier about, you know, opening up room for new beliefs, I think is maybe I could be misquoting it, but something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. You know, just really it stuck with me because, you know, I hear these things, and prior to learning about them, I'm like, oh yeah, it's whatever, you know, it's just breathing and stuff. But then you talk to somebody who does it and you try it, like we did with that breathing exercise that you and I were part of. Jersey Ed, and it was, I tried it right there on the spot, and I was doing the breathing, and I in breathing out, I breathed out more than I normally would, you know, and in doing so, I just automatically relaxed. So it was like you take that normal breathing, you just add a little bit to it, and next thing you know, you're transformed, you know, and you're like, wow, this is actually pretty powerful. So it was,
and
it was
you said the key word, Sweets, transform. You really do. You transform yourself, and that breathing technique that I do in the morning with the guided meditation, it does transform me from crazy thoughts to, you know, Podfather, you know, you've experienced it also. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I would like to have Kate back on and maybe do like a quick little session with us. I know this was you know, we only had a little time with her here, but maybe we can get her back on and do like a little technique or something, and have her part 2 here come on and do that. And I like the other thing before we close, guys, I like also what she said is that this is a piece of your recovery. There's other things out there. There's the 12 steps, there's the breath work, there's the meetings, there's the therapy. It's just another tool in your arsenal to stay sober, stay healthy sober, not just sober, but stay really healthy mind, body, and spirit sober. That's what I can see what this breath work does. And I will be contacting Kate and doing one of the doing sessions over Zoom, and I'll give you guys updates on it. This is just phenomenal. It really is.
Okay, make sure you send Kate a t-shirt. Okay.
I will send her a T-shirt. So, and she's a smart girl, wasn't she? Smart. I think she was smarter than all three of us put together. Good Lord. I was like, I'm thinking to myself, like, what is she saying, and where does she get that from? I want to be smart like her.
Absolutely knowledgeable in her field. That's for sure. I mean, definitely a pleasure listening to it too. It really was
absolutely
kind of therapeutic. So, Friends in Recovery podcast. Great show. Good seeing you,
absolutely.
Ed.
Yeah, likewise, guys.
Sweets on the buttons over there.
On the
doing
buttons.
a great job.
Yeah.
We're signing off. friendsandrecoverypodcast.com.
Stay sober, everybody.
That concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House for supporting those on the path to recovery and for keeping this valuable resource free for our Friends in Recovery community. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the show, email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. If you can't get enough of Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, you can catch them on Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast, available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube.